Ladies and gentlemen of The Hill, a couple of days ago, is Ron DeSantis slipping? The Atlantic, is Ron DeSantis flaming out already? Then you have NBC News. And we talked about this several days ago on this channel. Ron DeSantis donors and allies question if he's ready for 2024. At a recent gathering of 16 prominent Republicans, a number of DeSantis supporters discussed if he should run against Trump or wait until 2028. He's basically out of the running. He's basically dropped out. There's a chance that he could formally decide to run, but he's not going to be able to get close to Trump at all. What happened was the following. He banked on an arrest and indictment last week, okay, which is not a good thing to do when the reason that you are popular is because you're like Trump, okay? The interesting thing about the way media and Democrats and never Trumpers work is they say Trump is an authoritarian, so therefore we're going to level investigations by Democrats at the state and federal level at Trump endlessly. We'll continue to try to torment him and everyone around Trump. We'll give him negative media coverage to the tune of over 90%, 95, 96% negative media coverage, according to some estimates, all the time, 24/7 Trump. So Trump has no control. Oh, and then the intelligence agencies go after Trump. Outgoing Democrat President Obama, his intelligence chiefs went after Trump, accused him of things he didn't do. Then you have loyalists at different agencies. For example, people at the Federal Bureau of Investigation who texted, "We'll stop Trump." Okay, so Trump doesn't have state or federal government prosecutors going after any of his rivals. Okay, they're all going after him. They have since day one. Then you have an issue with media. Media is completely apoplectic, only going after Trump. Then you have, of course, every absurd scandal that they just conjure up. The FEC didn't view it to be a crime at all, didn't even find Trump. They fined the DNC, they fined Clinton's campaign, they did not find Trump. But he's the authoritarian who has media, who has media after him, working at the behest of Democrats. Everybody from the Washington Post, the Atlantic Times, CNN, MSNBC, Esquire, Vanity Fair, Rolling Stone, I mean, you name it, they're after Trump. He has state, federal prosecutors, Democrats in New York going after Trump, and he's the authoritarian. So authoritarians usually, in history, have complete control of media, complete control of intelligence agencies, complete control of the justice system to go after their political rivals. That's all they've been doing to Trump. That's all they've been doing to Trump. He hasn't committed a crime, but Hunter and Hillary, they obviously have committed crimes. That's why you had the concerted effort to censor the New York Post. Hit subscribe to this channel right now. Go to hagoodman.com to read my writing in The Hill, the Huffington Post Salon, Jerusalem Post, Federalist, and other publications. If you want to support my work long-term, my Patreon is below. The super thanks is below next to the like and the share buttons as well. Ron DeSantis was banking last week on an indictment. I think he truly believed that that Trump would be arrested, indicted, and that would be his opening. He did not. That strategy completely failed. It failed miserably. It was just as much of a failure as the New York prosecutors trying to go after Trump and indict him for something he didn't do. You might not like Trump. And the never-Trumpers are hilarious because they're like, oh, we don't like Trump. We don't like Trump's personality. It's like, well, part of any image that's created is media-driven, okay? You think Biden has a fantastic personality? He does. The only reason that his poll numbers aren't 10 points lower is because you have all of media propping this man up 24/7. And the only reason Trump's favorability ratings aren't 10 points higher, or 5, or at least 5 to 6 points higher is because media constantly berates him and disparages him. But donors are leaving because the reason people like DeSantis is because he's like Trump. He does things that no other Republican would do. Okay, he does things that no other Republican would do. He doesn't worship a consensus that is a fabricated consensus. So you'll hear these articles about, despite contrary to experts, Trump or DeSantis act in a certain way, and it's like, well, that is a fabricated consensus. Any dissent is completely marginalized, and you saw that for the past 6 years, 7 years. They try and do it with foreign policy now also, which he's flip-flopping on. DeSantis is now he's flip-flopping. So you have a situation where in terms of foreign policy, there wouldn't be an invasion in Europe if Trump were president, okay? It was a moral imperative to have voted for Trump. We now have a catastrophe in Europe. It is directly the fault of Biden's foreign policy. Now, if you say it's not Biden's foreign policy, it happened under his watch, and other European countries tried to prevent it from taking place. They met with different leaders involved in the invasion in Europe, the catastrophe in Europe right now. Of course, the side that invaded is wrong to invade, but the point is you don't want an endless war. You want to work for some kind of peace, some kind of negotiated deal. So there's not this endless catastrophe, human rights atrocity going on in Europe. Democrats are very morally superior. They're wonderful, highly educated. But if you ask them, do you have a time frame as to when you want to push for peace or some kind of negotiated deal? No. If you ask, the average Democrat would say 20, 30, 40, 50 years. It doesn't matter when, as long as the Kremlin suffers. These are this morally superior. Don't you understand? They've recreated the Cold War. They're the JFK Cold Warriors. Now, I don't trust DeSantis to stand up to these people. We've seen he's gone back and forth in terms of foreign policy. The point is he's trying to find a niche. He's trying to find a group within American politics. You either are voting for Trump because you want a better foreign policy and a better economic policy, or you're not voting for Trump because you don't like his personality. That's it. It's not because you're a Democrat. Well, no, or you're a Democrat. But if you're a Democrat or you don't like Trump's personality, you'll deal with inflation through the roof, all these bizarre, we're going to protect the environment, but flood 200 million barrels of strategic petroleum reserves. DeSantis doesn't have an actual foothold on a national stage, okay? Is he against Trump? Is he for Trump? Or does he think that Trump is being tormented and wrongfully attacked by all of these Democratic prosecutors? Okay, can you imagine if Republican prosecutors were going after the Clintons or the Bidens? They would never fly with media. And so when DeSantis almost wanted Trump to be indicted and arrested, that was a bad look. It was a bad look because he knew very well that Trump was being set up and framed yet again. This has nothing to do with the rule of law. DeSantis knows that. He basically talked about that. And then in a roundabout way said, well, I don't really know about what hush money entails. Was it that big of a deal? No, it wasn't that big of a deal. He's now saying even worse. He'll be Trump's vice president, okay? This is all theater and politics now. But he has to wait till 28. If you're a donor giving millions, you're doing so because you think that DeSantis will be Trump's vice president. You believe DeSantis will be Trump's vice president, and that's why you're giving the money. No one is giving money to DeSantis because they think that DeSantis is going to win the presidency or become the GOP nominee. They're perhaps hedging their bets in terms of, well, what if Trump gets indicted 5 different times for things he didn't do? Anyway, give me your thoughts below. Hit subscribe right now. Donors are leaving DeSantis It's Trump's nomination, 100%. Give me your thoughts.